Hi, welcome to the Annie's YouTube channel. My name's Katelyn, and today we're going to be talking about the Simply Beads of the Month Kit Club. Today we're talking about the Sea Breeze Kit. We're going to learn some different tips and tricks for making your necklace and earrings, and some additional ways that you can use these pieces in other jewelry projects that you might be working on. So let's get started. To get started on our project, our necklace, we need to start with our rosette. And I've already made one here and pre-strung everything so we didn't have to watch me string because we know how to string. But I'm going to show you how to make the rosette and give you some tips and tricks of making it easier to make it. So the rosette is actually a really basic form of chainmail. And in chainmail, you typically are using 2 pliers at the same time. And the reason for this is because it makes it easier because you're opening tons and tons of jump rings. And typically when you work chainmail, you never actually put your pliers down because it just makes it more efficient. So the first tip for making your rosette is when you have your jump rings, no matter how many you're using for your rosette, we're using 3 here, but you can always use more, is to open all of your jump rings except one. So here I have one open, and I'm going to take this one and I'm going to open this one as well. And just to show you, I have my jump ring here, my split is here at the top, and I'm holding it with my 2 pliers. And I'm going to twist one front and one back, opening it in a twisting motion. This will allow that when I twist it back, I'll have my perfect circle. Okay, so I have my first jump ring here for my rosette, and I'm going to pick up one of my open jump rings, and I'm going to feed it through and pick it up. Then I'm going to take this jump ring and I'm going to close it just by twisting it back. Now you can see here that there's a little bit of a gap, and so I'm just going to take, oops, sorry, right there, there's a little bit of a gap. So I'm just going to take my 2 pliers and I'm going to wiggle them back and forth until I get a nice clean join there. Now I'm going to fold these on top of each other, which is called nesting. And as you continue to put more and more jump rings on, it actually looks like a bird's nest. And I'm going to set them together so they're laying on top of each other. Putting it back on my work surface really makes it easier for me to see what's going on. And you may notice here that I'm working on a baking tray that I got from the Dollar Tree. And this is really great, especially with beads and jump rings, so that it doesn't roll away. It'll get stuck in the edges here. So I just put my beading mat right on top to keep everything contained. Okay, so now I have these 2 nesting on top of each other, and I'm going to pick up my 3rd jump ring and just hold it here like this, and I'm going to stick it right through and scoop up those 2 jump rings that were nested, just like that. And again, I'm going to take it and I'm going to close it up, wiggling it back and forth, and now I have my rosette that's nice and nested like that. Now I do want to show you that you can take this past just 3. So right there I actually have 4 jump rings, and I have a couple here that are already open, and I'm just going to show you that you just continue this process to get as large of a nesting as you want. So you can see our 3 here. Now these jump rings are slightly thinner than what you get in your kit, but it's what I had on hand. They're the same diameter, just a thinner gauge of wire. So again, I have all my jump rings open, just like this, that I twisted open, and I'm going to scoop down and pick them up. I'm going to take my 2nd pliers and I'm going to wiggle it back and forth until I hear a click and get it nice and close, and then I'm going to nest them together. Now if you don't want to put them down, you can just hold them like this and see how I still have my nesting. Then I would pick up my next jump ring, and if you can see here, I'm holding it close to the end so that I have plenty of room to scoop and pick up. And I'm just going to take it right through here, scooping it and closing it. The more jump rings you put into your rosette, or sometimes it's called a love knot, the wider you are going to have your jump ring open before you do it. So actually I'm going to put this down because I know this one's not going to be open enough because I was starting to struggle with the last one. I'm going to open it there, and I'll pick these up so you can see how I just have them all nested right in here. Actually, it's going to be easier putting it down on the mat with this many. But I have them all nested. I'm just scooping them up, and I'm going to close up my jump ring. Okay, so now you can see here, when I lay these down next to each other, that you can really get different looks depending on how many jump rings you use. This one here is using 7 jump rings, and this one here in the kit is using 3. They're still both beautiful looks, and it just depends on what you're going for. So I'm going to put this one aside because we don't need that. And what you were doing with your rosette is you were stringing on the end of your piece. And we put all of our beads on that are in the pattern, and we put our cone on. And you'll notice here, I have this little butterfly looking thing. This is a bead stopper, and what this does is it stops your beads from falling off when you have your wire. So I'm going to take that off because I'm now ready to string on the other end of my rosette. I'm going to take one of my crimp beads, string that on, pick up my rosette, and string that on. Then I'm going back through my crimp bead, and I'm going to snug this up. Now, to get a great fit here, one of the tips that I have is to slide it back through your cone and through a bead or two if you can. And it fits right through the pearl. I'm going to slide it right through to the green one, and I'm going to use my pliers here to help me snug this up. But I do have to be careful what happened to my, there it is, my crimp bead. I need to know where that is, can't lose that one. And I'm just going to keep snugging this up and snugging it up by pulling on the end until I get down to here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of gently hold it here with my pliers. Oops. I'm going to gently hold my crimp bead with my pliers so that I can continue to snug it up, but I don't lose my crimp bead, like that. And I want to get the loop on the rosette small enough that I have a little bit of wiggle room, but not too much. And so because it's pretty tight on my crimp bead, you just kind of have to fiddle with it a little bit, pulling it, snugging it, making sure it's getting in there nice and tight. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to stick it down inside the cone here. And I'm going to move that out of the way. I'm going to grab my crimp bead and I'm going to squeeze it flat. And the reason I'm sticking it into my cone is so when I lay this out, I'm not going to have any extras and you're not going to see anything. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wire cutters and I'm going to cut it flush along this bead, making sure I'm only cutting the one strand that I want to cut, making my snip. And now I have my beads strung. Before we move on in the project, I do want to take a minute to just kind of talk to you a little bit about bead stringing wire. So when you hear the word wire, there's actually 2 different kinds of things that you're talking about. One is going to be your metal wire that you're going to use for wire wrapping and things like that. And then you have bead stringing wire. And bead stringing wire is much more flexible, and it's what we use to string our beads on. You'll notice here that I have 3 different types. I have a 7 strand, a 19 strand, and a 49 strand. Now they're different colors as well, but the color really is just personal preference, or in this case, we used a silver color because we have silver findings. If you were using gold, you could use the gold variation. But the biggest difference is that you want to look at when you purchase your own bead stringing wire for a future product or project is you want to look at the number of strands, and you're going to want to look at this inch number. This inch number is telling you how thick the diameter is, and that's just going to matter because the thicker it is, you're going to need a larger whole bead. If you have very small whole beads, you're going to want a thinner wire. So let's talk about the strands. So the difference here is inside each one of these bead stringing wires, there's actually multiple strands of really thin wire. So this is telling you that there are 7 strands inside of this one. Inside of the gold one, I have 19 strands. And inside this one here, I have 49 strands. Now, the more strands you have, the more flexible your wire is going to be. It will also be more flexible the thinner it is. So even a 7 strand is going to be more flexible the smaller it is as opposed to the thicker. But that's really what you want to do. Look at is the number of strands, because it's going to tell you how many are inside. This one here with 49 is usually going to be more stable, lasting longer because there are more strands inside of it. This is my number 1 choice, but these also do have their purposes depending on what your project is. Let's take a minute to talk about these bead cones that are coming inside your kit. These are a really great piece to have in your collection for using. Here we're using them for the ends of our pieces, and we're actually using them inverted. Typically you would have your bead on this end and you would have like your clasp or your ear wire coming out of this end. Again, totally up to you how you want to use it. But these are really great. They come in all different shapes, all different sizes. This one you can see is kind of a hexagon shape. It's really great. But I wanted to let you know that you can actually make these on your own with a special tool called a cone-tastic. This is a great tool. It's specifically made to make cones, and this is what you can make with it. It actually, you wind it right on top of here. I bent mine over, but you wind it right on top of here, and then you can make it as long or short as you like. There's different sizes that you can get as well. And then you have your own bead cone that you can use, and it compresses. You can pull it out if you want to be able to see more of your work inside of it. And really it's easy to do. You just get, this is a 20 gauge wire. I chose red so you could see it, and you can make it any color you want, really making it customizable. And then you could do the same thing here with a different project just by using one of your own made cones. Next, we're going to be adding our chain and getting ready to finish off our necklace. So what the instructions tell you to do is get a ruler, and we're going to measure out our 6 inches of chain for the number of chains, laying it down and then snipping it here. Some chains do have open links in them, which this one does, but they're kind of small. Sorry, it's not really focusing, that you could open with pliers, but we're just going to cut it because you do have extra chain. Now, because you want the lengths of your chain to be the same, it gets a little bit hard while you're measuring it because you're just using a ruler and kind of eyeballing it. So here's a little tip for you. Inside your kit, you get these head pins, and they're head pins because they have an end on it. If they had a loop, then it would be an eye pin. And before we make our earrings, I'm going to use this head pin as a little measuring stick. And so I strung on all of my pieces of wire just by taking the end and slipping it on. And now they're all hanging and they're not going to fall off because we've got the ball on the end. And I'm going to take that butterfly wire stopper that I had before and just pinch it on there so now they can't fall off this side. Then I'm going to use my fingers and I'm going to drag down the end of the chain, and this is going to line up my chain for me. And I'm going to pull it down here, and I can see, if I get these flat, that this one piece is one chain too short, or excuse me, too long. I've already done this for the other ones, but I left one to show you. So now I see that, and I can come in here and I can snip off, oops, there we go, snip off that one piece that was too long, and now I have all of my pieces exactly the same length and ready to go for the next part. You can also lay it down on your table if that's easier for you and straighten them all out, and then you can look at the ends and make sure they're all cut correctly. But this is a really great tip when you're making chain that needs to be the same length, whether it be for a necklace or for a tassel or something along those lines, is put them all on a head pin so that they're all starting at the same spot. And then you can come down here and you can get them all to lay flat the exact same way and measure them and cut them. Finish up your necklace after you've strung everything, you've added your cones, you've added your rosettes. We're going to add that chain that we cut. Now in the instructions, you'll see that you're going to feed the chain through here and you're going to double it up to go ahead and make your clasp. Now the necklace section here is about 12 inches, between 11 and 12 inches, depending on if you added any extra beads, took any off, how much room you gave here. And so you're going to be getting about an extra 6 inches. For me, I like my necklaces a little longer. So what I did is I still took my 6-inch pieces, but instead of doubling them up, I just took a jump ring that I put the chain on and added it to my rosette and then added my clasp on it. And so this is giving me extra length while still giving me the similar look to the initial project. I just don't have the folded over look of the chain here where it's a little extra thick because you have the double layer. I'm just going with the single layer and making it a little bit longer. Moving on to finish up our project, we have our earrings. And you can see here how we have it stacked with our head pin, and in the instructions you're supposed to do a simple loop and add them to your ear wire. So I started thinking and I said, well, how can we add the rosette into the earring too, just to take it up a notch? So here's what I came up with as well. So here's another idea of what you can do with your kit. I've added a small rosette that I made exactly the same way, just with smaller jump rings. So you can see this is what was in the kit, and these were jump rings that I had on hand, and I did a same 3 jump ring rosette, and I added that here. And you'll notice that I didn't use the head pin. I made my own in this little knot rosette look to kind of tie it all together. So I'd like to show you how to do that and how you can create your own custom head pins if you don't have any of the ball head pins left over from a kit or purchased. Here's a great way to do it. So what you're going to need to do this is some 22 gauge wire. You are going to need your wire cutters. You are going to need a pair of round nose pliers. And I'm going to be using this nylon jaw plier. You'll see why in just a minute. And I'm also going to be using a chain nose pliers. So I'm just cutting off a small 2-inch section here. And I'm going to take my round nose pliers to start. And I'm going to pinch it at the tip of my pliers, at the tip of the wire, so it's flat in there. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to turn it away from me. And I'm going to come back and pinch, and I'm going to turn away from me. And I'm using my thumb here as leverage as I continue to spiral this around. Actually, I shouldn't say spiral, I'm coiling it. As you can see here, my coils are sitting right on top of each other. They're perfectly on top. I'm not spiraling in a circle. I'm coiling it. And I'm going to do about 2 to 3 coils, just kind of like that. That's what I like. Then I'm going to put those pliers down. And so my wire is coming off this side over here. So it means I'm going to feed it in through the top to create my knot. So I'm going to take this in my fingers and I'm going to hold it down because I want to go down this way. And I'm going to take this wire and gently with my fingers, I'm going to curve it up and push it through the hole like this. So it came from this side, I'm looping around and going back in through the top, and I'm going to pull this out. And you can do this with your fingers and just your pliers, but I wanted to show you a trick that when you get to this point, it gets hard to pull it through. If I grab my nylon jaw pliers and hold it right there, I'm not going to mar my wire at all, but I can hold it secure, and I can grab this with my chain nose pliers and pull as hard as I can, and as you saw, it just snugged that up. So now I have this really cute little rosette knot that I can use to mirror what I had in the necklace to make a really cute set. Now you can go ahead and follow the instructions as they are, but I just wanted to show you that you can use this rosette in a whole bunch of different ways, in your earrings, in other necklaces, as links instead of regular jump rings. Use a rosette to put it all together, and you can create some really beautiful sets. Thanks so much for joining me for the Simply Beads of the Month Kit Club with Annie's and learning how to make this Sea Breeze necklace and earrings. If you aren't already subscribed to the channel, please look down below in the description box for a link to sign up for each month's kit. You can come back here and join me and learn some new tips and tricks to help in your project making, along with all new projects that you want to work on. Don't forget to hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel so you can learn about any new video that comes out. Thanks!